Welcome to the UC Berkeley virtual campus visit on this lovely Sunday. I'm excited to have you here joining us for our hour-long tour, and we'll get started. My name is Kara, and I will be your moderator for today. I use the she, her, and hers pronouns, and I'm from Valencia, California, which is in SoCal, right by Six Flags Magic Mountain. If you like roller coasters, maybe you'll know where that's at. I just finished up my junior year and will be starting my senior year in August. I'm studying media studies and sociology, and outside of my academics, I'm involved in the UC Rally Committee, which is a spirit group here on campus where we fire cannons whenever the football team scores, we wave flags on the field. It's very exciting, very, very spirited community. I'm also in Greek life. I'm in a social sorority. I'm in the Business Careers and Entertainment Club, or BCEC for short, where we bring in members of the entertainment industry to kind of tell us about their lives. I'm also a lifeguard on campus and have an off-campus internship at a wine PR company. That's a little bit about me. I'll tell you some housekeeping items about the tour. This is a 45-minute presentation. And if you have any questions, please type them into that Q&A function that is on your screen. The chat is disabled, but that Q&A is right there waiting for your questions, and no question is a silly question. There will also be polls launched throughout this presentation so that we can get to learn a little bit about you as you're learning a little bit about us. This also will be recorded, and there are different versions available on our website and YouTube channel that you can check out later. This is a campus overview from the student perspective, so we do not have any admissions or financial aid information. Those are separate departments, but we can direct you that way if that is what you are looking for. And finally, we'll end this with a Q&A with our ambassadors, and we will do our best to answer any and all of the questions that you have today. With that, I will pass it off to our presenters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Berkeley. My name is Will, and I use the he, him, and his pronouns. I'm from Mill Valley, California, which is just north of San Francisco, and I am coming up into my junior year here at Berkeley. I'm majoring in human geography, which I like to think of as the politics of place, and I'm getting minors in applied linguistics and Portuguese. Some of my main campus involvements include academic clubs, for example, for geography or linguistics, Delta Phi Epsilon, which is an all-gender professional foreign service fraternity, and we focus on international relations and things like that. I've participated in the language exchange program, Reuse, which is our on-campus thrift store, as well as the Cal Running Club. And I've also done a bit of research and many different forms of study abroad. So if you have any questions about any of these, I'm happy to answer them. And with that, I'll hand it off to Amy.
Thanks, Will. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy. Welcome to our tour today. I use the she, her pronoun series, and I'm originally from Irvine, California. Just finished up my junior year, so going to be a rising senior in the fall. And I double major in electrical engineering and computer science and business administration as part of the MET, or Management, Entrepreneurship, and Technology program here at Berkeley. Outside of the classroom, I'm really involved in our entrepreneurship ecosystem at Cal. I'm part of the Excel Scholars Program, which is a mentorship program for CS and EEC students interested in startups. And I also volunteer with Berkeley's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Office, providing resources to student founders.
So again, welcome everyone. We are so excited to get to share our beautiful campus with you all today. You'll be seeing a poll popping up on your screen asking who you are so that we can understand a little bit who all is joining us today and cater the tour a little bit more towards you all. In the top right, you'll see a photo of Memorial Glade. I was actually just there this morning and it was as beautiful as ever. A lot of students like to hang out, study, play music there. It's just a great open space on campus. Another thing of note is that in the bottom left, you'll see that this past year, we've been celebrating 150 years of women at Berkeley. We've admitted women to our campus 50 years before women's suffrage. So it's really an important part of our campus culture, and it's really a point of pride for us. And we've been so excited to be celebrating this past year. It seems like a lot of you are high school seniors, juniors, and community college students. So welcome everyone. We're very excited to speak with you all today.
All right, and here are the list of key topics that we'll be covering over the course of our tour today. If you have any questions at all that come up over the course of the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll be sure to save some time at the end to answer your questions live. And we also have amazing campus ambassadors on the back end who will be typing answers to your questions as well.
So diving into a little bit of Berkeley history, we were founded in 1868, and we go by a few different names. This is really because we're the first UC campus. So UCLA, UC Davis, Santa Barbara, all of those campuses came later after us. So you may have heard us referred to by many names. For example, Berkeley, Cal, #1 public institution in the world, University of California. They all mean the same thing. I think Berkeley is usually the most common one, but you might hear Cal for athletics, for example. Our mascot is the Golden Bears. You can see a picture of Oski in the top left, who comes to our sports games and rallies and is really just a fun presence to have on campus, hyping everyone up. Our campus size is pretty big. We have just over 30,000 undergraduate students and almost 12,000 graduate students. This really just means that any sort of community or interest you might have, you can certainly find it at Berkeley, as well as passions and people who you didn't ever think you'd find or meet. I really value going to a large school. There are just so many more resources, but that's definitely an important part of our campus. And our campus does have many different historical landmarks, from Sather Tower in the top right, which is the third tallest bell and clock tower in the world, and numerous other historic buildings, really fascinating architecture. It's really a beautiful campus, and we hope someday soon you will all get to visit in person as well.
Yes, definitely. We have a super gorgeous campus. And in addition to our beautiful buildings, we also have an amazing campus culture. Something that I would describe about Berkeley's culture is that we are a community of change makers, innovators, and leaders. Our students are constantly striving to challenge the status quo and make a real positive impact on society. And this can be seen through so many different forums across campus, from entrepreneurship to research to political activism. And I think a really great example of this change maker mentality here at Berkeley is the fact that Berkeley was actually the birthplace of the free speech movement back in 1964. This was a movement that was started because at the time there were campus regulations that actually banned students from participating in any kind of political activity or advocacy on campus. And this did not sit well with Berkeley students. There were a lot of social issues that students were passionate about at the time, including civil rights, and they really wanted to make their voice heard on these issues. And so students gathered together and organized a series of rallies and marches, all completely peaceful, in order to try and convince the campus to let them be politically active on campus. And you can actually see in that photo in the top right of your screen an example of one of those marches in which students marched through Sather Gate, advocating for their free speech rights. And even though the movement began here at Berkeley, the free speech movement really quickly spread across the nation to a bunch of other college campuses around the United States. And it's really proud, I'm really proud as a Berkeley student to have such an amazing history of Berkeley being a leader in the nation.
Yeah, as Amy mentioned, there are just so many examples from the disability rights movement, which started here in Berkeley. We have the only ethnic studies library in the nation, and that came out of the Third World Liberation Front. You can look up divestment in South Africa from apartheid. There are just so many examples, local all the way to international. And I think this, as Amy was sort of mentioning, this comes in many different forms. It can look like a protest, like you see in the top left, political activism. But I think for me, I really see this shine through in my clubs, in my classes with professors. It really is a part of our foundation and really understanding what, academia and higher education is supposed to be for. And I truly believe that it's supposed to make the world a better place and bring opportunity to people who haven't had opportunity or who have not had a voice. And so I think, having that driving your studies is really important. And for me has become something that I've really come to value, seeing my professors challenge the way I think and then encourage me to go get involved, volunteer with a local organization or, educate others, educate my family. And so this is really a powerful thing to be a part of a community like this that really is envisioning a new world for everyone. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I've really loved coming to Berkeley and learning here.
Definitely. And regarding Berkeley's impact on our global society, even though COVID-19 has prevented us from being able to gather on campus, that really hasn't stopped the university from making great strides to make our community a better place and to serve the people around us. And I think a really great example of that is at the very start of the COVID-19 pandemic, a group of scientists here at Berkeley from the Innovative Genomics Institute very quickly, within the matter of a couple weeks, spun up a state-of-the-art pop-up diagnostic COVID-19 testing lab. And this was a lab that could process over 1,000 patient samples per day. And it was really helpful in alleviating some of the testing shortage that was in the Bay Area. You can see on the screen several other examples of the amazing impact Berkeley has had on our society, from education to advocacy and social justice. And it really just goes to show the kind of giving culture we have here at Berkeley.
Absolutely correct. And now we're going to be moving into a bit of academics. So for our undergraduate colleges, there are 5 undergraduate colleges, and you're going to be applying most likely into one of these directly. You are able to transfer between colleges once you arrive, but it can be a little bit more difficult to transfer into engineering or chemistry simply because there are more specific requirements for your first and second years, but it is possible. You certainly can do it. Within the colleges of Letters and Science, the Rouser College of Natural Resources, and the College of Environmental Design, these are a little bit more flexible. And even including in the College of Letters and Science, you enter undeclared, so you have a ton of flexibility in choosing your major. You can also double major within these colleges. You can get a minor across any of them. You can take classes across any of them. You can even take majors from 2 different colleges, and this is called a simultaneous degree. All of these different options just require a little bit more of planning, maybe meeting with an advisor a little bit earlier, but they're certainly possible. It just depends what you want to do and how you want to spend your time here at Berkeley.
All right, and let's take a deeper dive into one of our undergraduate colleges, the College of Letters and Science. This is by far our largest college. It's home to half our campus faculty, 3/4 of our undergrad population, and half of our PhD candidates. And what's really awesome about this college is the fact that it really emphasizes giving students a wide breadth of education and encouraging its students to pursue intellectual curiosity in many different areas and interests. All students will enter the College of Letters and Science as undeclared students, and within their time here at Berkeley, they'll eventually declare one of the 80 departmental majors offered by the college. The College of Letters and Science is home to 17 of our 25 Nobel Prizes. And a fun fact that I recently learned is that it was actually researchers from the College of Letters and Science who isolated the gene for breast cancer.
Yeah, another fun fact that I always like to mention too is that there are over 60 languages that we offer through the College of Letters and Science every semester. So there's so many different opportunities. Another college, the Rouser College of Natural Resources, also has a lot of opportunities, and they all have an environmental focus. The underpinning of this college is really sustainability and social justice, and really understanding how those two are integral to each other. You can't have a sustainable society if it isn't sustainable for everyone. And there are many different things you can study within this college, for example, biology, nutrition, and toxicology, interdisciplinary studies, social sciences, economics. They're really a wide range, but they all have this sort of environmental sustainability, social justice lens. Another thing I really appreciate about this college is that a lot of the classes actually have field trips. So it's not just about learning about the environment within the classroom, but it's also going out doing field research, whether that's in the Sierras. I had a class that went to Pinnacles National Park, and that was a really fantastic experience. And if you're interested in learning about the environment, I highly recommend this college, especially the focus on the humanities and social science side that tends to be overlooked is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, those field trips sound really fun. I'll have to take a class in that college sometime. For our next college, we have the College of Environmental Design. It is the smallest college we have here at Berkeley with about 650 students. And it is the first dedicated environmental design institution in the world. as well as the first to combine architecture, planning, and landscape architecture into a single college. The College of Environmental Design offers 4 majors for students to choose from. Sorry about that, to choose from. And all of these programs are designed to guide students toward the creation of sustainable yet beautiful buildings, environments, and communities. The college is housed in Bauer Worcester Hall, which is pictured in the bottom right of your screen. And this was named for a wonderful woman named Catherine Bauer Worcester, who was a real pioneer in American housing. Throughout the mid-20th century, she served and advised 3 presidents on housing and urban planning strategies, and is generally regarded as the mother of public housing in America. Back to you, Will.
Certainly a great history to comment on. Another one of our fantastic colleges is the College of Chemistry. This college is ranked #1 globally, and it is on the smaller side as well. There are about 1,000 students split across 3 different majors: chemistry, chemical engineering, and chemical biology. Important to note is that this is the one engineering program that is not within the College of Engineering, which we'll be talking about next. And this school is really known for innovation in research, especially in regards to the 16 elements that have been discovered here. This is sort of mind-blowing for me when I was entering Berkeley, knowing that berkelium and californium were, found and created right in the buildings that I was walking past on my way to class. Also, the Lewis dot structure. If you took introductory chemistry in high school like I had to, then you might know of these. This was created by Professor Lewis in an introductory chemistry class. And it's basically a way to better teach chemistry and how electrons and chemistry things work. I'm not a chemist, but you know what I'm talking about. And I think for me, what is really neat about this college is not just innovation in terms of, discovering new things, doing research, but also the teaching, the pedagogy. And I think that's something that my friends have really mentioned, is having these really fantastic, opportunities to do research, as well as these really fantastic professors and graduate students helping you along the way.
Yeah, I definitely remember Lewis dot structures back in high school, and oof, chemistry was hard. But on to one of my favorite colleges here at Berkeley, the College of Engineering. As an electrical engineering and computer science major, this college is obviously very dear to me. And the reason why it's one of the top engineering institutions in the world is the fact that it really focuses on hands-on and project-based learning. For example, I remember my freshman year in one of my introductory electrical engineering classes, we had to build this little robot car completely from scratch. We did all the wiring, all the coding for it, and this robot car could respond to voice commands. So it had this little speaker on top, and you would tell it to turn left, and it would turn left. You tell it to spin around in a circle, and it would do that. And that's just one example of one of the many things you'll be able to build here as a Berkeley engineer. And that's what makes Berkeley engineers so successful in industry as well, is that we not only understand the theory behind the physics and the math of engineering, but also we're really hands-on and we're able to make things that actually have a positive impact on society. If you're interested in the School of Engineering, I definitely recommend signing up for one of our separate engineering virtual visits, where we'll dive deeper into each of the engineering disciplines. I'll also take this time to talk a little bit about the MET program, which is a dual degree program between the College of Engineering and the Haas School of Business. If you look in that photo at the top right, you'll actually see me at the top of the staircase. That was a photo taken a couple years ago, and it's of the ladies of the MET class of 2022. The MET program is really small. We only have about 50 students per year, but it's a great opportunity to explore the intersection between business and technology. So would definitely apply if you're interested in that.
So great seeing you in the photo. It's like you're a celebrity or something. So moving on to our graduate schools. Likely, if you're looking into graduate school, you know that Berkeley has phenomenal programs. 16 of our PhD programs are #1 in the nation or in the world. And we have the most top-rated programs of any school in the US. So really, if you want to, just like for undergraduate, we have so many great options, but the same is definitely true for our graduate school. Something to note, since a lot of you are undergraduate students, is that these schools do have undergraduate offerings. For example, you can get a degree in business administration. For this, through the Haas School of Business. For this, you'll apply during your sophomore year, your second year here at Berkeley. And you, if accepted, you'll continue in the Haas School of Business. And if not, that's totally fine. There are other disciplines like political economy and economics that have overlap with business and are also world-renowned programs. So you can't really miss out here. There's also the Global Management Program, which allows you to study abroad in London your first semester and then continue into the Haas School of Business for your undergraduate degree. There's also the Biology and Business program, as well as MET, which Amy just talked about. And in addition, we have these other graduate schools like education, social welfare, journalism that also offer majors or minors and various other programs. For example, there's the Cal Teach program where you can get your teaching credential. While you're here at Berkeley, I have friends minoring in public policy or who did the summer journalism minor. There are really a lot of great options. Also to note is that a lot of undergraduate departments offer graduate programs. For example, I'm in the geography department and we have a PhD program. So this isn't our only graduate options. There are certainly many more, but these are some important ones to highlight because they are our graduate schools.
All right, and that wraps up our discussion of the different schools and colleges at Berkeley. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what it's like to actually be a Berkeley student and attend class at Berkeley. Many of our classes follow a lecture plus discussion formula, and this is where 2 or 3 times a week, the professor will give a lecture to the entire class. These lectures are typically an hour to an hour and a half long, and then the students will also meet in discussion sections every week. These discussion sections are typically 20 to 30 students, and they're led by a graduate student instructor. And these discussion sections will usually have some sort of project or worksheet or lab for the students to work on and really just practice and master the material that was covered in lecture. In addition to attending lecture, a great way to get to know your professor is to go to office hours. This is actually something that many students don't take advantage of. I remember in a math class I had my freshman year, I was really struggling with some of the material. And so I went into office hours with the professor, and there were only a couple other students there. So after their questions were answered, the professor sat down with me for a good 45 minutes. And she walked me through a couple homework problems, made sure that I understand everything that was on the homework. And it was just a really great experience to see that the professor cared so much about me as an individual student and making sure that I understood the material and that I could succeed in her class. In addition to going to office hours, you can also get help through the Student Learning Center and other free peer tutoring services that Berkeley offers. Many departments will have their own free peer tutoring. So for example, I've taken advantage of a lot of the tutoring offered by the EECS department at Berkeley.
Yes, there are certainly many resources we offer for tutoring or whatever it may be, and those have also continued this year while we have been virtual. We've been fully remote and with hybridization goals in line with CDC guidelines. This just really means that Berkeley is paying attention to student, staff, faculty, community member health above all else, because it is important that you're safe and healthy and doing well. Our academic experience, we've been on Zoom Pro. It just means you get all of the extra Zoom gadgets and things like that. We have synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous being you all meet at the same time, let's say 11 a.m. and you all meet virtually on Zoom. Asynchronous being maybe it's a pre-recorded lecture or maybe it's not totally necessary that you go at that time because it will be recorded. This was really valuable because not everyone is in the same time zone. So students have kind of had a bit more flexibility in getting their coursework done this semester and last. And just like Amy mentioned, we've got a whole lot of different resources that have all continued online, like virtual drop-in tutoring. I got tutoring for an essay I was writing and it was incredibly helpful. And I also did well on the essay, so that was really nice. And instructional resilience, we've had a bunch of different programs because transitioning to all online is difficult, especially, if you're a professor who's been teaching in person for 20 years. So programs like the Semester in the Cloud, or we had a training program for graduate students as well as professors for, how to use Zoom better and things like that. Those have all been continuing while we've been virtual.
Yes, definitely. And in addition to academics and learning, another big part of being a college student is getting to live on housing, getting to live on campus and getting involved in campus housing. 96% of our freshmen live in a residence hall their first year. They can live in one of several. There are units 1, 2, and 3, which are these high-rise buildings on the south side of campus. There's Clark Kerr, which is this beautiful residential hall that's a little bit further from campus, but they, in my opinion, have the best dining hall. There's also Foothill and Stern, which are really close to the engineering buildings. I personally got to live in Blackwell Hall my freshman year, and I was actually the first ever class to get to live in Blackwell. And it was just a really great experience as a freshman, getting to live with my peers. And I remember my floor in Blackwell, we'd have weekly board game nights, weekly movie nights. We had a whole Super Bowl party in which the floor got together and I think cheered on, I actually don't remember which team, but we all like had the same team that we were rooting for. And it was a really great just opportunity to get to meet other people who are my age and who are also adjusting to college at the same time. What's also great about living on campus is that you have a meal plan included with your housing plan. So this gives you access to the many dining halls across campus in order to have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And there are certainly fantastic options for continuing and transfer students or after your first or second year where you might want to live. You can continue in campus housing. There's also International House. You can see in the top left, about 3/4 of the students there are international students from all over the world, and the rest are usually American students. They have tons of events, also insanely good food. So if you're ever there, that's a good thing to check out. There's also affiliated properties. For example, we have parent and family housing. You know, they're very specific housing arrangements. I would recommend going to the Cal Housing website to look up more specifics because there's really anything you could want. A lot of students do choose to do off-campus, an off-campus apartment, meaning they'll get a few friends and sign a lease on their own. I actually really value this because I think getting that practice while you're in college, while you have Berkeley resources, your friends all here, you know the area, it's a really good experience to, you know, get better at cooking, to sign a lease, to perhaps deal with landlords or anything like that, rather than, you know, moving across the country and starting in a new place and, you know, kind of being thrown into that. So I personally really value that. It also gives us a lot more options than only being in the dorms all 4 years. So I really appreciate it. There's also co-op housing. We have the largest university cooperative housing system in the nation. Basically, students perform a few tasks each week, like cooking or cleaning in exchange for greatly reduced rents. They're great communities as well, so that's also another good option. And of course, there's Greek housing, whether it's in traditional Greek life, like a fraternity or sorority, or even some of the professional fraternities and sororities have houses as well. For example, the chemistry fraternity, you could live there. You are able to continue with a meal plan, or you can learn to cook, or whatever you kind of want to do. There's really fantastic restaurants in the Bay Area, and I personally love the dining hall, so it's kind of hard to go wrong.
Definitely. I also lived off campus my sophomore year, and getting to cook for myself was a really big plus. Something else that Berkeley takes really seriously is the health and safety of our students. Students have access to a health insurance plan called SHIP, or Student Health Insurance Plan. And this is a plan that is completely comprehensive. It provides medical, counseling, prescription, vision, and dental services. But if you already have health insurance from a private provider, like your parent has health insurance, then you can always choose to opt out of SHIP. The University Health Services is located at the Tang Center, which you can see in the bottom right of your screen. And this is where registered students can visit for health services, regardless of what health insurance plan they have. Additionally, during this time of COVID-19, UC Berkeley also has on-campus COVID-19 testing that's available for students living on and around campus. In addition, being a student can also be pretty stressful. And so taking care of our mental health is really important. There are official resources like counseling and psychological services through University Health Services, or there's also fun events for students to unwind and have fun on campus. You can see in the top right of your screen, Llama Palooza. That's a really fun event that happens before finals in which students just hang out with llamas and take pictures. So all in all, Berkeley is a great place to really not only grow as a student, but also make sure that you're living a healthy life as a student. Back to you, Will.
Yes, indeed. And also integral to your health is safety. So we have a variety of programs. Some of them are on your screen. The UC Police Department works in cooperation with the City of Berkeley Police Department. We have blue light poles, which you can see in the bottom left picture. Basically, they're located across campus, and at the residence halls, you press a button and emergency services are on their way to you. I've never seen anyone have to use these, but they're very helpful and very visible on campus, especially at night. We also have Warn Me, which is a notification system, usually by email. So if something is happening, or maybe there's a power outage or something like that, you get a warning about it. I think parents can also sign up for it. So if that's something you're worried about, you are completely safe there. There's a residence hall 3-point security system. Basically means that you need a key to enter the building, a key to enter the elevator or stairs, and then a key to enter your room. It's very easy, but it just means that it's very secure because there's no way someone is going to have all three of those to enter your room, except for you or your roommate. There are also a variety of night services, including our night safety shuttle. This runs throughout the night and then eventually turns into a door-to-door service. You can check it on your phone for where it is, and it'll pick you up for free and drop you off wherever you need to go, basically around campus. There's also Bear Walk. This is where community service officers, CSOs, who are trained and uniformed, they have walkie-talkies, will walk with you back to wherever you need to go at night. So let's say it's 3 a.m., you've been studying, your friend's already left, and you don't want to walk home alone, maybe just because it's night, or maybe you just want someone to talk to. You can call Bear Walk, and for free, they will come walk with you. I've heard that my friends have had really great conversations, or have just met a new friend, or already have a friend who does Bear Walk, so they just requested for them. So that's another really great resource as well. I've never felt unsafe, certainly not on campus, and certainly not in the area surrounding Berkeley, but it's nice to know that if something ever were to happen, that I have all of these resources to keep me covered.
Definitely. I take the night safety shuttle a lot when I'm on campus late and when I get back home safe. And it's a really easy to use resource for all students. Another part of being a part of such a big public university is that we have a really diverse and wonderful student body. And UC Berkeley is committed to making sure that all of our students feel like they belong and they are supported here on campus. We have many different resources listed on this slide. One I'd like to highlight are the Centers for Educational Justice and Community Engagement. These are a set of collaborative centers that are based off of student identity and help support students throughout their career here at UC Berkeley. There are centers for African American student development, Asian Pacific American, Native American, Chicanics, gender equity, multicultural. And so no matter your identity, there is definitely resources and a community for you here on campus. If there are any resources that you don't see on this slide, but that you're interested in, I definitely recommend that you take a look at the link berkeleyconnect.berkeley.edu/links. That has the full list of resources available to students on campus. So if there's a resource that's not here that you're interested in, I definitely recommend visiting that site.
Certainly, it almost sometimes seems like there are just endless options, but there are so many people who are trying to make sure that you're having a great experience. So definitely reach out to them. Moving into sort of what your life will look like outside of campus and things like that. We have over 1,000 registered student organizations. I believe last semester was 1,300, which is sort of unfathomable for me, but it really just means anything you could want, from entomology club to concrete canoe building team to hang gliding club. There's really everything, or any identity or community or academic discipline you want to be a part of, it's there. A lot of these clubs do have volunteering, but there's certainly a number of ways to get involved with volunteering outside of clubs. I volunteered through Reuse, our on-campus thrift store, and that was a great experience. We also have a volunteering fraternity as well, I think. And there are a lot of organizations that just have a huge focus on giving back to the community. So I think that's really easy to find. Campus employment is certainly easy to find. The vast majority of my friends have a job, and some even have two jobs, for example, working in the dining hall and working at a local cafe. In addition to, our immense libraries and dining halls and things like that, there are also a lot of businesses in the city of Berkeley that you can work for, or if you want to work in San Francisco or something like that, that's also an option. We have a number of internships that students generally get involved with over the summer, or even during the fall and spring, whether it's in San Francisco or Oakland or Berkeley, Silicon Valley. The Bay Area is really a dynamic and interesting and fascinating place. So whether it's jobs, internships, organizations, there are so many options. Study abroad as well. We have study abroad through UC-EAP, which is the University of California Education Abroad Program. This means that we share resources with UC Davis, with UC Santa Cruz, the whole UC system, meaning that we have even more programs because it's representing, hundreds of thousands of students. And it's really pretty easy to go abroad. You can study abroad with any major. A lot of programs are actually cheaper than going to Berkeley, so it's certainly accessible and your financial aid will carry over. Also, a lot of our students who do study abroad are transfer students. So whatever your situation entering into Berkeley is, going to advisors is a great way to ensure that if you want to do study abroad, you can certainly do it. Bay Area exploration, as I mentioned, Bay Area is super dynamic. A lot of great hiking trails, lakes, an extinct volcano right next to campus. There's lots to do. It's just a great place. It's honestly hard to get bored. So whatever you might want to do, you'll find it here.
And another big part of student life on campus is athletics. We're really proud of our student athletes who compete in many different levels of competition, from Division I to club to even intramural and recreational sports. A couple of the biggest landmarks on campus include California Memorial Stadium, which is where our football games are played, as well as Haas Pavilion, which is where our basketball, volleyball, and gymnastics teams are housed. Since 1920, Cal athletes have won a total of 207 Olympic medals, 117 of which have been gold. We also have some pretty big name alumni playing in the NFL, including Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, and Marshawn Lynch. And while I'm personally not much of an athlete myself, I do try and get my exercise in, and I take advantage of the recreational sports facility pretty regularly. This is essentially this giant gym that's open to all students on campus. It has treadmills, basketball and handball courts, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a track, weight rooms, Zumba and kickboxing classes. So honestly, no matter how you prefer to exercise, there's going to be an option for you at the RSF.
Or you can also try a new sport that you might not have ever heard of. You're definitely right, lots of different options. And so this year, since we have been virtual, a lot of our community and resources and things that we've been talking about have moved online. A really great part of our Berkeley community has been our social media networks. For example, on Instagram or Facebook, there's so many different communities or departments that you can, be a part of and get updates about. I get a ton of newsletters, which is honestly really fun because they'll send me talks to go to or internships to get involved with, or even just free things. I've gotten money from some of the newsletters, which is really fun. Student groups are certainly also continuing online. Essentially everything I'm involved in, I've done online. I've also tried some new clubs and met some new friends virtually, which has been really fun. With social hours, online versions of different in-person events, or something I've really enjoyed is my professional fraternity. We usually invite guest speakers, and now that we are virtual, we've been able to have speakers from around the world. We had a journalist from Indonesia talk with us a couple months ago, and that was really fascinating. These talks are certainly part of your department as well. There are different professional and personal opportunities and tons of different guest lectures. Berkeley is a big name around the world. And so we really get some fascinating speakers. From Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we've had the former presidents of Chile or Brazil. I mean, really fascinating people. We talked with a dialect coach in one of my classes for linguistics. So she had just come from a set with, I think it was Ryan Gosling and Gal Gadot or something, two famous people, and was just talking to us about accents and linguistics in the entertainment industry. And it was really fascinating. Then Golden Bear Orientation, also known as GBO, has also continued online with all of the standard advising, preparation, networking, getting to meet other Berkeley students that typically happens in person has also continued online.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about libraries and research on campus. So we have 24 official libraries, the largest of which is Mainstacks, and that's actually located under Memorial Glade. So it's actually our largest library on campus is underground. It's my favorite place to go when I really need to just buckle down and get some studying done. It's completely silent. No one talks in Mainstacks. And so you'll often see it really full during midterm and final season. My personal favorite library on campus is the East Asian Library. It's located actually right next to Memorial Glade. And the reason why it's so awesome is that it has these beautiful window walls that let in a lot of natural light. And so it's just an amazing place to kind of sit down and calmly study as opposed to the very intense cramming of main stacks. Regarding research, there's many opportunities to get involved in research on campus, even as undergrads. There's the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program, or URAP, that many of my friends have taken advantage of. They've done research in everything from educational equity to neuroscience to artificial intelligence. And many of them actually got involved in URAP in their first semester freshman year. And so you can get involved immediately once you hit campus and hit the ground running.
Certainly, I've also been part of URAP with doing research in the humanities, and it's been a great experience. Super accessible. A lot of the programs, they just want someone who's enthusiastic. So it's not hard to get in, depending on the project and how many people want to do it, but it's a great experience. Moving on to some of our famous alumni and professors, you probably know many of these names, from Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, to Jennifer Doudna, who's our most recent Nobel Prize winner in chemistry this past year, to actors, Alex Morgan, so many different people. You'll probably come across many names in the next few years too as you look up Berkeley. But I think it's just really fascinating not only to be taught by these people, to interact with them when they're graduate students, but also, some of these people are your peers and you get to hang out with these really fascinating people, learn from them, and it's just a really great community here on campus.
And one of my absolute favorite things about Berkeley is just the gorgeous natural landscape we have. Berkeley is really unique in that we're situated on the side of this hill. And so on one side of the hill, we have the city of Berkeley. It's this bustling urban environment, lots of mom and pop shops and local restaurants to try. But then on the other side of campus, we have the hill with a bunch of just natural hikes and trees, and there's a creek that runs through campus called Strawberry Creek that actually a lot of biology classes will use as a living laboratory to do experiments with. One of my favorite things to do on campus is to hike up the hill to a spot called the Big C. It's literally just this giant C that's painted into the side of the hill. And you get there to the top and you can see the whole Bay Area. If you squint, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge in the far distance. And I think probably that middle picture is the view from the Big C. And so it's just a really gorgeous place to be able to go. If you ever get the chance to visit campus, definitely recommend that hike.
All right, with that, we'll go into our live Q&A. Thank you for that amazing tour. I know that I learned a lot, and now we have some questions from the audience. This first one is for Amy. What would you say is the best part of campus?
Ooh, I just said one of my favorite things is just the natural environment, but I think probably one of the quirky best parts of campus is our squirrels. So we have these really fat squirrels that run around campus, and they're kind of aggressive and they'll steal people's food. But that I remember visiting Berkeley campus as a little kid. I'm from California, and so we've gone to all the different UCs. And the biggest thing that stood out to me as a kid were the squirrels. They're so fat and cute. And they're just like really awesome. Like when you're walking to different classes, you'll see them running around and climbing up the trees. And so I'm a staunch believer that Berkeley squirrels are better than all other squirrels. And you'll have to fight me on that.
The Berkeley squirrels are definitely something else. They're kind of like our second mascot, I would say. Thank you. And our next question from the audience is for Will. How many pages of reading or writing do you complete for homework each week if you were to kind of give an estimate? And just more broadly, can you talk about the workload for your major?
Yeah, it's a really great question and is certainly going to depend a whole lot on what you're studying, who your professor is, what class you're in, or just your work habits. I would say there's a really big difference with classes that have, for example, a lot of problem sets and kind of like group projects that might not have as much reading. For example, my friends who are studying biology, for example, they might do some reading in the textbook, but most of their work comes with like reviewing lecture material, doing problem sets, things like that. Whereas for me in the social sciences, I have to read a ton every week, and I don't really have any of those problem sets at all. I would say for my classes, I usually assume 50 to 100 pages of reading per week per class. So if I'm taking 4 classes, then I would assume 200 or 300 pages a week. I'm not that great at reading, to be honest. When I entered Berkeley, like my first week, my teacher was like, okay, read these 20 pages for next week. And I was like, oh boy, how am I going to do this? But I think you really get to take classes you're interested in. And that reading becomes more of like something fascinating that you get to spend time doing. And it's time you're preparing for the class as well. It's not just like, oh, do this as busy work and you're never going to see it again. So professors are really there to help you through it. Graduate students, peers, if I don't understand something in the reading, I can ask my friend. It really depends though. I know that, for example, history and political science have a lot of reading, even more than geography, whereas philosophy might have less pages, but is a lot more dense. And so, it takes a bit longer to get through. Other classes have 0 reading and you just have a long project at the end. It really depends. I've been in a class that didn't have any homework and we just had like field studies. So it varies a lot. I think that's part of the beauty of college is being able to make your own schedule, but time management is certainly important, and do not overload yourself because that's like the worst thing to do. So I would say start off with fewer classes and then build up until, you feel like you're more comfortable with your schedule.
Yeah, those were some great tips, and it really varies with whatever classes that you have, and it also varies semester to semester. Sometimes you'll have a really, really reading heavy semester, sometimes you won't have as much. So it pretty much varies all the time, but that's what makes it interesting. Kind of building on that, is there a list of core classes that all students have to take? Amy, can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, it really depends on what college you're a part of. For example, for the College of Letters and Science, there's a 7 breadth requirement. So you have to take a class in arts and literature, a historical class, a physical science class. And that's really part of the College of Letters and Sciences mission to create well-rounded students that have curiosity in many different areas. But for example, for the College of Engineering, we only have 5 breadth requirements. I'm not super sure what the core class requirements are for the College of Chemistry or the College of Environmental Design, but I'm sure those are all available on their respective websites. There's definitely a lot of variation between departments and majors, and so definitely depending on what you're interested in, do your research and you'll have opportunities to both explore your own major, but also branch out and take interest classes as well.
Thank you. And all of these classes, whether you have to take them or not, they're like not required. They're all listed on classes.berkeley.edu. So you can even look at classes that are not even within your college, just kind of to get a sense of the wide range of things that we have available to study. So that is super cool. Uh, our next question is, what's your favorite Berkeley tradition? Will, what is your favorite Berkeley tradition?
Yeah, fantastic question. I'll really quickly mention too the course requirements. I think the flexibility is great. For example, I had to do a writing requirement, and there were 50 different courses that semester that covered that requirement. So lots of options, like Amy and Kara mentioned. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just flexibility. It's not, shouldn't feel too onerous. Anyway, favorite tradition, I think would have to be Go Bears. More so than any other university that I've been to or my siblings went to or anything like that, is just the spirit for saying Go Bears on campus and around the world. I cannot tell you, living in the Bay Area, you will encounter it a lot. Like, I was hiking last weekend and someone saw that I was wearing Cal things and they said, "Oh, Go Bears." You know, it's just that Berkeley spirit follows you off of campus. But even internationally, like, I've met people in another country who, you know, it creates a conversation, or they say Go Bears. I was at an event in San Francisco and I saw someone was wearing a Berkeley hat and I shouted Go Bears to them from across the road. I think it's just really fun because it kind of brings an upbeat spirit to whatever, you know, you're doing, whether you're just on a hike or walking around the city. And I think people always smile whenever that happens. And so for me, it's kind of like a really hopeful and happy experience every time that happens. But yeah, I just really enjoy that. It always makes me happy.
I love that. We truly bleed blue and gold here. And if someone says Go Bears to you, you have to say it back. It's a rule. Sorry. You just have to do it. But it'll just make everyone smile, to make everyone's day better. All right, Amy, can you talk a little bit more about the MET program for our audience?
Yeah, definitely happy to. So the MET program is a relatively newer program at Berkeley and part of the second ever class of it. And so we just had our graduating seniors, their very first graduating class, graduate this past spring. And it's this dual degree program where you can study from the Haas School of Business, get a BS in Business Administration, and then pick one of the engineering majors from the School of Engineering to major in as well. And so while I'm on the EECS track of MET, I have friends who also study industrial engineering and operations research, civil engineering, bioengineering, mechanical engineering. And it's really just this opportunity for students to get to double major in both disciplines, because traditionally both programs have many requirements. It's pretty difficult to double major in them together. And so that's why most MET students will get admitted as freshmen, and you get started in the program immediately. I think we have slightly less breadth requirements than you would traditionally have if you weren't a part of the program. And so it just helps you get to study these two disciplines in 4 years instead of try and piece it together while you're at Berkeley. And it's a really small program. We only have about 50 students per year. So it's this really great small community of people who have similar interests to you and who are also just really interested in entrepreneurship, tech innovation, and creating positive things for society.
Thank you so much. I hope that helped. I hope all these answers helped our audience out there and that they enjoyed this tour. And I have one last question for the both of you, and that is, what is your Berkeley story? What made you choose Berkeley, and what has led you to stay and experience everything that it has to offer? So, Will, can you talk about your Berkeley story first?
Yeah, another great question. So I think choosing Berkeley for me ended up being pretty straightforward, just with weather and location and finances based on the schools I got into. It made the most sense for me. But I think what has really been impactful is the reason I've stayed and have loved my experience here. I think it's really been defined by one, inspiration, and two, surprises. Sorry, that might be my dog, but additionally, so after high school, I deferred my acceptance from Berkeley for a year and decided to study abroad in Spain for the entire year, which was an incredible experience, but kind of made me worried about going to Berkeley after, how it was going to be. I got to campus and was blown away. I mean, just there's so many options, so many fantastic learning opportunities. You can meet people who speak so many different languages. It sometimes felt more international than when I was literally living abroad. It's such a fantastic community. I ended up discovering geography after going to at least 10 major advisors my first semester. I was really doing my due diligence, trying to find the best programs for me. And I've loved it. I never knew that geography even existed as a discipline before coming to college, let alone human geography, which is like the social science side. And I literally mean every single class and almost every reading I do blows my mind, like completely reshapes the way I think about the world. And that's powerful and it's inspiring and it just makes learning really fun. And I think sometimes in high school, I would get a little bored or wasn't as interested. And I think that's, again, the beauty of college. You have this choice and you can choose what you want to do and spend your time with. And coming up this next semester, I'll be backpacking in Montana and learning about indigenous environmental philosophy. Next summer, Berkeley is paying me to go to Portugal. So again, there are all these opportunities that, I never knew that I was going to enjoy. I, again, did not even know they existed, but Berkeley will find, those hidden sides of you. It'll challenge you, but you're going to have a great experience here. And I really value, being challenged, finding new things and being inspired during the entire way. So that's why I've decided to stay and why I've loved my time here.
Yeah, I'd like to be paid to go to Portugal. That sounds amazing. For my Berkeley story, I think the biggest thing I was looking for out of a college experience is one, a great entrepreneurship ecosystem. It was something that I was always interested in high school, starting businesses that solve problems that people face in their everyday lives. That's what I kind of envisioned my future career being. And then the second thing was I really wanted to be surrounded by people who really cared about what they were working on and wanted to use what they were working on to make a positive impact in some way. And I talked about this a little bit during the tour about our culture of being change makers, but visiting campus, coming to Cal Day after I was admitted and just talking to people on campus and just how passionate they were about whatever it was they were studying and how not only were they passionate about it from an academic point of view, but also using what they learned in class to be politically active, to do research, to organize events, to educate other people about what they were studying. It was that kind of go-getter and change maker mentality that was really the environment that I wanted to learn from and grow as a person in. And more specifically on the entrepreneurship ecosystem here at Berkeley, it's really one of the best places you can be in the country if you want to be a student founder. We have so many different resources from Berkeley Skydeck, which is our on-campus accelerator. We have SCET, the Satarja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, which is kind of the academic branch of entrepreneurship on campus. You can take classes in which you form a team with other students and you basically come up with a business idea, whether that be a meat alternative, a blockchain startup, using data to help solve health problems. And so Berkeley has really committed to making sure that students who want to be innovators and want to be entrepreneurs are supported on campus. And that's something that honestly most institutions are a little too hesitant to do, and that they really want to focus on just the academics and just the research. But Berkeley not only has great academics and research, but we also take that research and turn it into real world solutions through entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, it just really ended up being the perfect place for me for my career path, as well as for me to meet other people and surround myself with peers who were passionate about just making the world a better place.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories. I know that I'm inspired and I hope our audience is as well. I just want to leave you with a few resources before we go. You can check out our UVisit tour, which is kind of a Google Maps 360-degree view at uvisit.com/Berkeley. You can follow us on Instagram at Visit UC Berkeley to see what we're up to. And if any of your questions were not answered today, or if you come up with more later, you can email tour@berkeley.edu, and an ambassador just like us will answer your question. You can also check out the Bear Talk blog to hear more Berkeley stories like the ones Will and Amy just shared with us today. You can see recorded virtual visits on our YouTube channel at Visit UC Berkeley. Maybe this one will also be there, fingers crossed. And you can check out what we're doing to celebrate 150 years of women being admitted to our campus. Really, really exciting times for us. You can also find the admissions presentation at admissions.berkeley.edu/visit if that's more of what you're looking for. And finally, you can register for more ambassador panels and engineering visits at the same place that you registered for this tour, visit.berkeley.edu. With that, I want to say a great big thank you for taking an hour out of your day to join us here. And I would love to have Will and Amy unmute and give us a great big Go Bears, Will's favorite tradition about our campus. So go Bears on 3. 1, 2, 3. Go Bears!
Go Bears!
Yes. Have a great day.